What is up, guys? Welcome back to my reaction channel. It's your boy Chris. Today we're gonna be reacting to documents from the Mariana Trenches, the SCP 2000 tale. Bro, the title was so long, bro, I'm telling you. But hey, this SCP explained, so you know. Anyway, guys, we already hit 50 subscribers. Yo, crazy as hell, bro. I'm telling you that. I like it, bro. Y'all know it is. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button for post notifications, you know. If you have any suggestions, comment down below, also for algorithm, you know. With that being said, let's get into the intro.
SCP-2000 is an unremarkable location. It is an old, rarely used park ranger station in Yellowstone National Park. It's in the middle of nowhere
is in that
and
SCP,
gets deliveries of supplies from helicopters and unmarked cars as needed. While a few civilians have attempted to break in, none have been successful, and SCP-2000 remains undisturbed, kept in plain sight without anything seemingly important about it. But why is this one of the most secure locations in SCP history? Why is it of the utmost importance that it continue to exist, no matter what? The answer may rest in a mysterious document found in the most unlikely of locations. The Marianas Trench is the deepest point on Earth, and the SCP Foundation has made many trips there to investigate strange phenomena. But what they recovered on one visit exposed one of the most closely guarded secrets in Foundation history. It was a document that had somehow survived at the bottom of the ocean, sealed in a pipe and coated in wax to keep it airtight and waterproof. It appeared that it had been packaged in such a way that it could survive anything, and that's exactly what its writer wanted. She wasn't sure when the world had begun to end, but she could see it coming for a while. She looked out her window and saw all the signs. The seas were getting colder and less hospitable to life. The air was getting warmer every year. Resources were dwindling and the population was increasing.
I'm not sure where they are getting at here,
and
guys.
while no one knew just when it would come, almost everyone seemed sure that the world, or at least humanity, would reach its conclusion soon. It was a sinking ship that first really made it clear things were going in the wrong direction. The Disney Magic was one of the world's most popular cruise ships, a favorite vacation destination for families. It was also one of the most carefully built ships, as the company prided itself on safety and had learned well from past cruise ship tragedies. So the world was rightfully shocked when one day it was announced that the ship had sunk while pulling into port. No one knew what had happened, and there was something even more mysterious about this tragedy. No one seemed to have any footage of the sinking. Despite round-the-clock news coverage, all the pictures were of the ship still afloat. That is, until the news companies received the tape. The networks were so eager to play the footage that none of them reviewed it first, and the footage went straight to air. It showed the ship moving along smoothly, surrounded by smaller boats, when it suddenly stopped. It was as if it had been frozen in place, and the footage showed people on the deck of the ship falling over from the abrupt stop. Everything went silent, and then an odd foam emerged from behind the boat. Everyone assumed it was the engine having issues, but it wasn't the engine. It was a massive arm, at least 100 feet long and belonging to an eldritch being just below the surface. It reached up, grabbed the boat, and ripped it open like a piece of tissue paper. The thousands of people on board ran for safety, but there was nowhere they could go. Jets zoomed overhead, ready to attack whatever the thing in the water was. A massive, spiny figure started rearing up out of the water, and then the video went blank. The letter found in the Marianas Trench continued to explain what happened next. The president quickly declared a state of emergency and implored everyone to stay calm. Television networks were placed under government control and were only allowed to broadcast government-sanctioned information. It wasn't long before the internet became restricted too, with people prohibited from sharing information that wasn't authorized. The government just kept telling people to stay calm and go about their lives. The writer of the letter tried to follow this advice and went to work and paid her bills as if life was still normal. But all around her, she saw terrified faces, and they were right to be scared. This was only the start of the crisis that would soon grip the entire world. More and more strange things started happening, but none of them were tied to the mysterious monster that had been seen emerging from the sea.
Okay,
Towns were evacuated
so
because of rioting,
strange
were
things
placed under
start
quarantine
popping up.
after an outbreak
It's
of
not
a
even enough
mysterious
to
disease.
assume the
Destruction
world's
was
ending.
blamed on
Come
terrorist
guys.
attacks or wildfires. The writer's brother called her to tell her that he had been forced out of his home. The reason was supposedly a wildfire, but he had gotten a chance to look at the fire as he was being evacuated, and there was something odd about it. He could swear he saw a figure of a man in the fire, a man made of fire, and he was moving deliberately. But she couldn't ask any questions about what he had seen because the call got dropped, and she never got to speak to her brother again.
I've got a
It
good
was
feeling
becoming
where they
harder
got
and harder to get any information about what was happening, with most news sources shut down or under strict government.
Guys, first off, you can't just assume the world's ending just because strange things start popping up, alright? You can't just assume shit. Second, I think the SCP Foundation having a breakout, you know? A lot of SCP started like, you know, escaping shit, you know? Maybe that's just what happens here. It's basically start of an apocalypse and shit. That's what happens.
Government control. There were only vague rumors for her to latch onto. People talked about zombies ravaging the north, about people who seemed normal one moment, losing their minds and going on killing sprees. There were whispers of a doomsday cult rising up that was trying to stem the apocalypse through human sacrifices. There was even talk about the ground itself coming to life and eating people.
What?
It all sounded like one thing: the end of the world. The letter's writer tried to stay sane, keeping her information intake to a minimum and attempting to go about her life in as normal a way as she could. But it wouldn't be long before the horrors outside came to find her, and they became impossible to ignore. It was early in the morning when she heard screaming and gunshots outside. She could smell something burning and found blood smeared on her window, but she was too scared to find out what was happening. She hid and waited for the noise to die down. Soon the power and heating went out, and her water supply cut off not long after. She knew she would have to go outside if she wanted to survive, and she wasn't prepared for what she would find, or rather, what she wouldn't. Her house was in a flat suburban area without any major geographical landmarks, so she wasn't expecting to step outside and find a massive cliff with the other side nowhere to be seen. Not only did it look like the rest of the world had fallen away, but she couldn't see the bottom of the cliff. It was like that half of the world no longer existed. What was left of her neighborhood had been torn apart, with blood and destruction everywhere, and she seemed to be the only person left. Had she been saved because she hid, or had the others taken the opportunity to evacuate? She didn't know, but all the houses around her had been abandoned. She was determined to survive, and so she took what supplies she needed from the empty homes and retreated back to her own. It soon became clear, though, that much more had changed than just the geography of the world. Time itself seemed to be slowing down. The sun stood still in the sky, not moving from one spot for days. Sometimes a heavy fog would quickly roll in and render her essentially blind. But worst of all, she soon found that she was no longer alone. Whatever had come into her neighborhood now, it wasn't human. The first to come were strange, roughly man-sized metal creatures. Then came the smaller creatures, like the one that looked like a pill bug, but one the size of a cat. This one seemed harmless at first, but then it looked at her and screamed "Stop!" in a human voice. But this was nothing compared to what came next.
Bro, if you started smoking weeds and shit, go outside and then you stumble upon a bug like size of a cat and it says "stop," bro, it's yo gotta dip, bro. Yo gotta dip. Yo gotta run, bro.
Next, giant blimp-like maggots with hundreds of
damn,
eyes.
Bro.
They were ferocious predators, landing and eating anything in sight. She was sure with all of these horrors that she must be the only human left. But one day after one of the disgusting blimps passed by, she found someone else. He looked like he belonged to a SWAT team and was clearly hurt. Seeing another human was enough to spur her into action. and she pulled him to safety in her home. He told her that he had been hunting one of the blimp maggots. She told him that he was the first person she had seen since the cliff showed up in her neighborhood, and the rest of the world had disappeared. His response to this was odd, though. He told her that the world hadn't disappeared. It had simply relocated, but couldn't tell her any more than that. She pressed him for more information.
Okay, that's
and
interesting.
he said that his orders
Someone's
really
capable
meant
of
nothing
moving an
anymore.
entire planet.
He revealed that he worked for a foundation that tracked down strange and dangerous creatures and captured them for research and to keep the world safe.
Bro, you're dead, bro.
But something had
if
gone
SCP
wrong.
Foundation
All the entities they had been keeping
he's
contained
dead.
had broken free at the same time. It was too late
Tell
to
you.
reverse the damage.
Tell you someone's got a
the
broke
world
out
had
of
been
it.
declared a GH0 dead greenhouse scenario. The Foundation had failed. But there was a plan.
What is that
There
scenario,
were still
bro?
people
What?
alive, but carefully contained around the world in safe zones. The Foundation had a way to reboot the world, including recreating people with all the memories intact. The Foundation would clear out the dangerous entities, repair the damage, and use their technology to put everything back as it was. This world would be gone, but it would be replaced with another one that resembled itself exactly, with no memories of the horrors that had occurred. This couldn't be done, right? It was impossible to sweep all of this away. He just smiled and said, "Why not? It's been done before." She didn't know when the end would come. She didn't even know if she would realize it was happening, but she didn't want to be forgotten. So she wrote her thoughts down and sealed them in a tube. She sealed the tube in wax and waited. Maybe her house wouldn't be fully destroyed. Maybe it would wind up underwater, as the man had briefly mentioned. Maybe her message would endure and be found one day, as the last relic of a world that had been wiped away. She wouldn't be around to see it, but maybe her world would be remembered. The true purpose of SCP-2000 is the Foundation's most closely guarded secret, a massive underground facility designed to prevent humanity's extinction, able to produce 100,000 humans per day. It contains memory banks that hold the entire history of the human species and all associated information. But all documentation regarding its initial construction and history has been lost, though no one is sure whether this information was lost in one of the resets, or by design. The Foundation has made sure that SCP-2000 will not be breached. The facility is guarded by cognito hazards that will stop anyone without the appropriate inoculation. Any unauthorized access attempts are considered grounds for instant termination, regardless of how high-ranking someone might be in the Foundation. SCP-2000 is to the Foundation what the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is to agriculture. The fail-safe in case everything goes wrong. That's why it has the object class of Thaumiel, a rare classification that is secret to all but the highest levels of the Foundation, but to almost everyone, including every SCP Foundation member who has never encountered it. SCP-2000 is just an old, rarely used park ranger station in Yellowstone National Park, with absolutely nothing unique about it, and no reason to look closer. And the Foundation will ensure it stays that way. That's why when a letter was found at the bottom of the Mariana's Trench that described one of these world-resetting scenarios, a letter that pleads to not let the world that existed before be forgotten or hidden away, the Foundation made sure with absolute certainty that it would never see the light of day. Now, for more on SCP facilities, check out SCP-2000 Deus Ex Machina, or the entire saga of SCP.
Guys, that is SCP Explained document from the Mariana Trenches, SCP-2000 Tales. You know, the title was so long, bro. You gotta find some sort of title than that shit, you know. But hey, the thing that I'm asking is that how many times the SCP universe was reset, you know, or is this one of those SCP alternate universe that was destroyed and then reset? Because there's a lot of SCP universe, right? So is it one of those main universe, or is just one of those side universe that was destroyed and then reset? That's what I want to know, you know. Also, what is GH0 whatever the fuck greenhouse scenario, you know? What is that shit, you know? Is that one of those, what is that class again? You know, above Thaumiel class, the whatever the fuck it is, the end of the world class scenario. Is that it? Is that one of those shit, you know? Yeah, comment down below if you know shit, because guys, I can't find this shit researching, you know. I need to look specifically to some files in the SCP sites, you know, and it's not gonna be easy, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button for post notifications. If you have any suggestions, comment down below. Also, if you want to see more of my reactions, look out my playlist, you know, head down to my playlist. With that being said, I'll see you guys soon.